Hi, it's Dorothy Guinan with Scrapbooking Quebec. Welcome to video 3 in my series, Simple Pages with Impact. In this series, I share ideas on how to create big impact on simple pages. Pages with wow that come together super quickly. I aim to do these in 1 hour or less. In this video, I'm going to show how to create a magazine layout look quickly on scrapbook pages. Here's what I'm going to be using. I have leftovers from the Simple Stories Hard Eyes collection. This is Valentine's theme, but I will be repurposing it. Anyway, let's jump right in. Here's what's on my desk. I want to show you the paper that I've selected. Now, this collection is pretty picked through. I've been playing with it for a few months right now. Anyway, you're going to see I have some scraps of paper. It really doesn't take much printed paper for the project I'm about to share with you. You can see I have some black cardstock there, but what's most important are these two pieces of paper. You need a 8.5 by 11 white cardstock that's thin enough to go through your printer, but thick enough to kind of house some photos, and also a contrasting 12 by 12 background paper. I'm showing you as well, I have some scraps handy just in case. I also have some stickers from this Hard Eyes collection. I don't end up using them. And I have some alphas here, which are from a past Vicki Boutin collection. Now I'm going to show you the photos that I have. I have 3 photos. That is me wearing a hat with a hole in it, also a photo of my new hat, and a photo of Chester, who I suspect put a hole in my new hat. I have 1 square photo there that measures 2¼ inches. This layout design can accommodate 3 of those small square photos. Also, I have a tray with some embellishments. So now I'm going to do some real time for a short bit. I'm going to do this segment in real time because to create a magazine style layout, basically this is the most important step. What you want to do is set up this piece of white cardstock. So this white cardstock here is 8.5 by 11. It is from Creative Memories. It's their regular cardstock. It's not the extra thick cardstock. And this one passes through an ordinary printer, a home printer, no problem at all. So you can see that I have the sizes laid out here. I have 2 3¾ by 5¼ blocks. Those are going to be 2 photos with photo mats. And I also have 3 2.5-inch squares. So I know I can fit these on a page, and that's going to make sense to me. I also have a space in the middle, and that's where I want my text to go. So in order to do this, I had to play around with a bit, and that's what I'm going to show you right now. The first one I did here, actually, this is the correct version. What I'm showing you here is that I did my journaling, and I then punched my return key 21 times. This brought me right down to this area of my page. Now the font I'm using is Cosmic Sans MS, 12 points, 21 lines down. Also, you can see here I have a cut line that says cut 1 inch from the bottom. So I'm going to put this on the page, and you're going to see it fits nicely with the indications that I have listed here. Now I didn't immediately come up with this. Basically, what I first did was I tried it at 23 lines down. You can see here I have quite a bit of space there, and well, it could have worked, but I would have had to cut from the top and at the bottom. And when I was figuring out this format, what I was trying to do was figure out the top part. Once I knew I could get that to fit, then I would figure out the bottom part. So I knew 23 was too much. Then I tried 22, and it was still a little bit off. You can see I still have a little bit too much space here. Again, I could have trimmed from the bottom and the top, but what I was trying to do was come up with a teachable format for you. And finally, I tried it at 21 here, and it worked for what I was doing. Now, keep in mind, I have 6 lines of journaling. All of this, of course, is dependent on how much journaling you have. Anyway, I just wanted to show you what I did and how I made it work. So once I finally did it as I liked it, then what I plan to do is cut 1 inch from the bottom. I'm just going to put this here so you can screenshot it in case you want to copy what I'm doing. But what I really want to point out is I did have to play around, but once this was done, then basically my page is made, and I'm going to show you how quickly this comes together. So let's get going. And the first thing I do is trim 1 inch off from the bottom of that white cardstock. And now what I'm doing is trimming 2 strips of paper, one in that striped paper and another in that hexagon print. I will put measurements for all of this on the screen a little bit later on when I place these parts on my foundation page. But right now, I just want to show you where I'm going with this. So on the far right, I'm going to have a narrow strip of that striped paper, and on the far left, you're going to see a wider strip of that hexagon paper. Now I'm placing my photos on that white cardstock. What I'm going to also do is round the corners on that hexagon paper. That's just for the fun of it. I have no real reason for that. And I'm applying a little bit of ink to the edges of that hexagon paper. I do the same thing for the top and bottom of that striped paper. The ink I'm using, by the way, is Morning Mist by VersaFine Clair. So what I'm going to do right now is adhere my page parts to the foundation page. So I'm positioning that striped border in the middle, but it's bumped right up on the far right. So you can see there's 1 inch of pink at the top and 1 inch of pink at the bottom. Now what I'm going to do is adhere the border, that hexagon border, behind that white cardstock. So there is about 1.5 inches that I'm leaving. The rest is tucked behind the white cardstock, and that's going to be where I place my title a little bit later on. So I want that paper to be visible, I want it to have an impact, but more importantly, I want it to be a home for my title. You may have noticed as well, when I printed my paper, when I printed on that white paper, it just kind of rounded a bit. So I put a fair amount of adhesive on it just to make sure it was flat on top of that pink foundation page. Now I can place my photos. So the 2 photos at top fit nicely. At the bottom, I do plan to add a mat behind that photo of Chester, and you can see I have room for 2 more squares. So you can place 3 photos at the bottom, 2 photos at the bottom, or 1 like what I'm doing here. What I'm doing right now is just trimming myself a mat, a black mat, to match the other photos that are at the top of the page. And I'm just showing you there that you do have room for 2 more squares. Now that is going to be where I put my embellishing. So I'm going to treat that area a little bit differently, but very similar. So what I'm going to do is cut out 2 squares with my Big Shot. These are stitched square dies. It's from an old Stampin' Up collection called Stitched Shapes, and you're going to see the squares are just slightly smaller than the photo that's in the middle. And off camera, what I did was I cut myself out another piece of cardstock to back behind those pale green squares just to make them a little bit thicker, and I did the same thing behind Chester's photo as well. So now what I'm going to do is adhere all of the photos to their spots on this white cardstock. So I start at the top, and what I'm doing is just making sure the margins are equal on both sides. Now when I adhere at the bottom, what I'm going to do is adhere on the far left, the pale green block, then I'm going to adhere on the far right, and once that's done, then I'm simply going to position the photo in the middle. And at this point, I am all ready to embellish. And the first thing you're going to see me do is work on my title. And as I mentioned earlier, I want that title to fit in that hexagon border on the far left. So I have Alphas from Vicky Boutin, a past collection, and I already have it on wax paper. What I wanted here was a title that was long that would fit that entire block there on the far left. So my title is Guilty as Charged, and you can see I am starting on the far left to adhere my title, and then what I will do is start at the end of the title. So what I'm doing here, and I do this often with long titles, is that I just want to make sure I know where my title starts and where it ends. That's why I did the first word first, then I did the last word second, starting at the very end, and then with the third word, I just positioned it in the middle. It's just an easy way to place your title, just to make sure you know where you're starting your title and you know where you're ending your title. I am getting out my embellishments here, but I need very little because there's already a lot of color on this page. There's already a lot of impact, and the idea here is to do something quickly. I am showing you 2 hexagons, and those were actually fussy cut from that paper that I already used on this layout. And now I'm just tucking in a few cut apart sheets up by that photo in the top right. Basically, I want to create a visual triangle or 3 areas with embellishments. So I have those 2 hexagons at the bottom, a couple layers at the top right there, and one of them says current mood. So I thought that was perfect simply because I wasn't too pleased with Chester. He had just ripped a hole in my hat. What I'm doing is applying a bit of ink to all of those embellishments just to give them a little bit more depth. You can see for the hexagons, I'm popping them up on foam adhesive, and I will simply be tucking in those 2 layering pieces at the top right in 2 different areas. One goes behind the photo and another behind the photo mat. Now off camera, I stamped out a little, I don't know, mugshot number for Chester because he is guilty of being naughty. And anyway, I just stamped it out with some stamps from my stash, and you can see I adhered it on top of his photo. So that is basically it. The most difficult thing about creating a magazine layout format is formatting your journaling to fit your photos. Hopefully, with the tips I shared, I made this a little bit easier. And if your story length is different than mine, just play around a bit. It's easy, and the best part, your journaling will be done. I hope you enjoyed this video 3 of simple pages with impact. If you did, I'd greatly appreciate a thumbs up. If you haven't subscribed to my YouTube channel, I would be thrilled if you did. And if you are a subscriber, thank you very, very much. Take care, and I will see you soon on YouTube. Bye-bye.